Hey, my name's Dave is Dead, and I'm here today interviewing Darby Vicious in Boise, Idaho. So, Darby, I'm going to start right off. I've heard you had a pretty interesting childhood. Tell me about where you grew up in Cali.
So I grew up in Victorville, California. Um, my dad was like a pastor. We belonged to like this crazy ass, big ass mega church. I grew up really strict. Like all I knew was like just Christian values, Christian music, Christian movies. Like I had no perspective of anything that wasn't of Christianity. So like all of like my whole world was based like everybody I knew was a devoted church member to where I lived in the church that I went to. The music I listened to was Christian. The movies I watched were Christians. All my friends were Christians. So growing up, it was just very religious, and my dad was just very strict on me. Like Tuesday was youth night, Wednesday was Bible study, Thursday was choir practice, Friday was church, and on Sunday was like two services. So my
Oh,
whole
wow.
upbringing, yeah. So my whole upbringing was basically just like dedicated to just my like the church, like
So, you basically grew up Mormon without being Mormon, basically?
yeah, basically without the
Yeah.
Joseph Smith.
Yeah, without Joe Smith
Yeah,
involved.
basically.
Yeah.
So really strict. My dad was a pastor and very involved in the church.
Yeah.
So all of like I don't know, my beliefs and morals all came from the church and what they told me and what they taught me and things like that.
So, did anything end up like happening with that church? Usually, when there's something that controlling over your life, like there's usually something going on in the background. Like, how do you end up here? What made you leave that life behind if it was so big?
Um so I think when I was like 12 years old, maybe like 11, my mom decided to leave the church because she was just going through a lot, and she basically told the pastors like, listen, like I'm now a single mother. I live like an hour away. I don't really have the funds or the time to be as dedicated to the church as I was before. Like I kind of need to like get a new life started with me and my son. Like I'm still going to come to the church, but basically like I can't contribute like my time, cuz she was like lead singer of the choir team, and they basically told her no, like you need to contribute, you need to be ins, you know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Because you've been in for too long. So
Yeah.
they basically like that's when my mom decided, because we literally just couldn't afford to go there anymore, and also like it kind of like opened her eyes like
So there wasn't like any empathy for her situation. It's like, no, you gotta
nah,
sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice.
yeah,
Damn.
literally.
Yeah, that would push you away for sure.
But yeah, it was something, all right, but that's basically when I stopped going to church, when I was like around like 12 years old, because of that situation.
Gotcha. Like, when would this have been around? Like,
When I was like 11,
okay, cool. So like, '07, '06.
something
Yeah.
like that, around that ballpark.
Gotcha. How did you end up in Boise, Idaho?
Um, so when I was like 12 years old, I got kicked out. My mom's kicked me out, and basically my sister married a redneck that lived in Victorville, and he had family out here. So she's been out here for a while. So basically, from there, I left and I got kicked out, and I was forced to move here. And like my fucking whole world changed once I came here. It's fucking huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. Idaho is hella different than Cali.
Hell yeah.
So I've known you for a long time, and you've gone through a big musical evolution. When I first met you, you were doing more like Cali like style gangster rap. What inspired you to get into that and produce that at first?
So it was just like all I was able to rap about was just like what I saw and like my upbringing. So like even when I was making like gangster music, I wasn't even talking about like shooting people or like none of that gangster shit. Like I would literally just talk about like my homies doing that shit and like being around the environment, like because I seen a lot of shit. Like when I was like when I was like 12 years old, I got basically taken in by a black family, and I literally went from like fucking every day to like church people, Bible studies and choir practices, and now I'm taken in by this family who are all like majority of like, so I was taken in. So I met my friend Davion, and then his mother just basically took me in because my mom was having a hard time, and I was spending a lot of times there, and all of her family would always come over there every weekend, and they were all gang affiliated.
Oh, wow.
So I went from like Bible studies and knowing nothing but just religious people and shit to now all of a sudden I'm around like gang members, and there's drugs around me. I'm drinking.
You
There's
just got
girls getting fucked right next to me. And here I am like 12 years old going to like the park at 12 o'clock at night while like gang members just looking for fucking trouble.
yeah.
So like my whole world did like a whole 360 right then and there. So yeah, so like I would just talk about like just the crazy shit that like I experienced, like, as far as like getting shot at and like I don't know, just like the lifestyle that living in that situation in that environment comes with. And it's just all I knew. So I would literally just rap about like kind of like what I saw, what I experienced. And a lot of people were fucking with it at the time too.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of like that's why I made that type of music. And it's all I knew too, because like back then I was like listening to, I think during that time, like my I call her my other mama because like she basically raised me, but she would just burn music on CDs, and she would just like listen to like YG had like the Just Read Up mixtapes coming up. We listened to like Lil Boosie. There was this rapper named Compton AV that we used to bump a lot, like just
He
a lot.
local out there? Or
Yeah,
I
he's in
haven't
the
heard
LA scene. I talked to him on Facebook once. It like made my day. I thought that shit was so
That's
fucking
crazy.
cool.
So
But
you just went straight from church. You got thrown in the pond and you had to learn how to swim,
yeah,
basically.
it taught me a lot because like imagine like only being around like Christian people, Christian environments to like that situation. It was like a whole 360. It was like a whole world that I didn't even know existed because I was so sheltered and blinded from anything that wasn't Christian. Like they call it like the ways of the world, like worldly ways, worldly music, worldly people. Like
Yeah.
that's basically like what I got.
Back when I grew up, we called it the natural man. It was like
Yeah.
the same thing, just with a different like brand on it.
Yeah, so that's basically like how it's happened. But that's
Gotcha.
yeah, I just basically wrote about my environment and what it was like growing up in that type of environment, just based off what I saw, like the sightings and shit.
Okay. So you went from that. I mean, right now, obviously, the music and the style that you're engaging in, it's a lot different. What kind of inspired that shift over time? Like, what's influencing what you're doing now?
So when I was, I'd say about like 18 years old, like I'll never forget this. So like I wrote this one. I used to like really like making rock music, but where I'm from, like nobody listens to rock music. No one does rock music. So like I would record it, but I was like way too fucking scared to like ever put that shit out.
Take that leap.
Yeah. And like I would just keep it in the vault because like I was like, damn, because like even people would tell me like, you know, like, oh, you should only make music that you know people in your city fuck with. How do you plan to blow up from your city if you're not making music that like people in your city fuck with? And I really took that to heart. It was really fucking bad advice.
Yeah.
But I took
The
that to
internet,
heart.
You can go anywhere with it.
I took that shit to heart. So like I was way too scared to release it. And then one day my homie decided to post like this one song called I'm Fucking Sorry on Facebook. And I was like, yeah, like you can fucking release it, because he wanted to like try to promote his like music videos and shit. And I was like, yeah, I have this like throwaway song that I'm probably never gonna fucking release anyways, like you can fucking so we just like shot a video in the corner type shit. And then he posted it, and like that shit just started going dummy crazy. Like it used to take me like a month to get like 1,000 views on my SoundCloud at the time, and then out of nowhere, like this video is like racking up like 30K views, which was a lot for me at the time.
That
And
was
like,
on Facebook. That wasn't SoundCloud.
Yeah.
So that's like really rare for that to
and
happen.
like people were just messaging me like, damn, like this, and it was like an alternative rock song. So like they're like, man, I literally cried to this song. Like I sent this song to my ex, just based, this is how I felt. Like I've never gotten a reaction out of that, and I was like, whoa. And I was like, this is, to be honest, not even then, but that was kind of like the like interesting, like that's crazy. But what really, really, really fucking inspired me, I'll never forget this moment. It literally gives me chills to this day. I just randomly stumbled on Lil Peep's music, and I remember listening to the Hellboy album, and I remember when the bass drops on We Think Too Much. I swear to God, like it felt like I had taken like ecstasy for the first time. It blew my,
It
like,
just hit you.
it blew my mind. Like the same way like older people talked about like the first time they listened to David Bowie, like how their minds blew. Like literally that was like me, but with Lil Peep. Like that shit, I never, cause like music wise, like I went from like listening to strictly Christian music to like rap music. I've never even like dabbled or been around the environment where people were listening to rock music, and like Peeps were like more of like alternative rock. So that like hearing like the 808s with rock, just bro, that shit blew my fucking. And I literally got up. I was working on this collab album with like one of my friends, and I said, and it was like a rap album, and I was like, delete all that shit. I don't want to do that shit no more. This is what I want to fucking do, because that shit was like, that shit was euphoric as hell. That shit was an experience for sure.
Yeah, that time in music was really interesting. You had Lil Peep, you had Bones, you had X, a lot of artists who were taking what was already familiar in hip hop and just blending in stuff like crunkcore, like pop punk that had been popular. So you kind of found it sounds like, at the exact time that you needed to.
Yeah, that shit like just made me feel a way I've never felt before. I heard shit that I've never heard before. I was like, I knew that was the direction I wanted. I wanted to like create that sound as well, create that feeling, and it just was a perfect set in stone and shit.
So speaking of Peep, I see you've got the tattoo of him on your hand. You've got a lot of interesting tattoos. Like, what inspired you to get those, and what are they of?
honestly, I like to think of like my tattoos as like eras of like my life. You feel me? Like
Kind
I
of like
have,
scrapbook on your body.
yeah, like I have like a CA tattooed on my chest, and
Cali
like
tat.
yeah, and I'm like that was when I like was like super like about California, and like I like to make gangster music, and like I don't even regret it.
How
Even
old were you when you got that?
I think I was like 15. My brother did it because my mom told me I couldn't, and my dad wanted to piss my mom off, so she let my brother tattoo me. So I got that when I was like 15 years old. That was my first tattoo, and then like it just sort of gravitated from there.
Gotcha.
Just kept going harder and harder.
Indeed. Yeah, you got the face tats, the whole loadout now.
Yeah, I got those when I was like 18.
Yeah, yeah.
My mom was going through cancer at the time, and she's like, don't fucking give me another heartache. Don't tat your face. And the second I got the call that she was cancer free, I called my fucking homie. I was like, bro, tat my fucking face tonight.
Oh my God. Well, at least you waited.
I know, respectfully.
So back in 2017, you had the opportunity to open for XXX and for the Rest of Members Only. And beyond that, you also got to be brought on stage with them and meet them afterwards. Tell me about that experience, man.
So I get the call. I'm in California at the time. And I think I just left Idaho, like maybe like a month prior. And I get the call like, yo, bro, you got to go back. I'm like, why? You got to come back. And I'm like, why? He's like, 'cause we're opening up for X in like 2 months. You got to come back. No, not even that, like in a month. You got to come back. I was like, holy shit. I was like, okay. That's surreal. I was like, let's fucking do it. So, man, where do I even begin? So let's just start like day of. So day of the show, I'm excited, I'm hyped. And then we get a call, or at least like the promoter gets the call that like, listen, like y'all might not be able to perform because X got punched by an opener the day before.
Yeah.
And they were really fucking iffy about openers.
The fight at the Salt Lake show, like the 14th of June that year.
Yeah. So I was like, fuck. I was so sad. I was like, fuck. But luckily we were able to we worked shit out and we were able to go on. So let me see. So we get there. We start performing. And I have to add context. So I remember like before I went up there, before I even performed, I had taken this picture with like two of my friends. And I had been getting so much fucking hate from people here because like if you tried to like do anything that was different here, or if you did anything that was somewhat feminine, like you got shit on. Like I know like people are pretty like open-minded now, like not to the most, but like a little bit more flexible when it comes to shit like that. But back then there was no fucking like, they had a strict policy of like,
well, especially with it being Idaho, it's super conservative and people like are very big about gender norms even now to some degree.
It was way worse back then.
It was extreme.
So like I think all I had was like painted nails. I had like a choker on. I think I was wearing some like girly glasses, and I remember this chick made this like Facebook post about it, like calling me like gay slurs and shit. And it's crazy because everybody in the comments were supporting that shit. There was no one backing me, so it was all literally just like, oh my god, like what the fuck, calling me gay slurs and I still have the screenshot on my phone to this day.
Oh my god, it
really humbles me.
You look at that ever for motivation or when you need to check yourself.
Yeah. I'm like, damn, came a long way. But yeah, and I was like, that post almost made me not even want to perform for X, because I was like, I thought everybody in the crowd was gonna feel like the exact same way, because like I guess for them it was okay for like celebrities to do it, but for like people that lived here, like people were just so small-minded, you know what I'm saying?
It's almost like they didn't treat those artists that came in from out of town as real people, like they were zoo exhibits or something.
Like it's okay if they do it, but like people from here doing it, oh, you're a freak, call me every gay slur in the book. So like I was like, damn, I don't even want to fucking perform. If everybody in the crowd's gonna feel this way, they're gonna fucking anyways. So we get to perform, and I performed with the collective. So first performers go up, second performer goes up, and then I go on. And I think, so I performed a song called Louis Loafers. I literally made it like the day before X, like before the show. And so I performed that, and it went crazy. Like I saw the video on my Instagram if you want to see it. Like the crowd went so hard. Like that shit was, I'm just picturing it right now. Like they went so fucking hard, and I was like, fuck yeah. Like I was like envisioning, I was like, bro, those people that made that status are probably in the crowd, and they're just fucking forced to like turn up to my shit, because there was not a single person that was still, everybody was going fucking crazy.
Idaho hadn't really seen shit like that before. I don't think Grey Day or Suicide Boys had come before, so that was like the first time.
So I know. So there was a promoter that would bring artists out here, and the only reason that he brought out X was because Look at Me billboarded.
Yeah, that was LaFonte
Yeah,
Joe.
That was the only reason X even got here, because he only brought people off based off billboards.
Yeah.
And I guess Look at Me charted, so like he just went from there. And
yeah, that year I think, I'm not sure if it hit top 20, but like off of streams alone, it went crazy.
yeah, because he didn't even know who X was. Like he's like, I didn't even know who this dude was. I just saw he charted, so I booked him.
Yeah,
that's
it was affordable at the time.
Yeah, he was like $30K.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that was like the first time like this city has ever even seen an artist like that, because before they were just bringing out like just older generations, like Too Short, Fat Joe, Twista, and shit like that.
Ashanti,
so
Ja
this was
Rule,
like the first time like they've ever seen the crowd. This is the first time they ever got to experience music like that. Even before X, like a lot of kids will tell me all the time, like, you were like the first person I ever felt like I ever got to mosh to, because I opened for X. Because a lot of people, X's like that was like their first experience in like a mosh pit type crowd.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will always tell me like, bro, like when you opened for X, that was the first time I ever got to like mosh pit. I've seen it on videos so much, and I've always wanted to do that. And like, oh my god. Anyways, getting caught up. So
yeah.
Then I performed on Fucking Sorry, and that was like the first time I ever had a crowd like sing the music back to me, and that shit was like, that was like a surreal. I feel like that's every artist's dream, like
Definitely.
to hear like a whole crowd like sing that shit back to me, because like it's crazy, because like I got a lot of hate, but I also got a lot of love. But the hate was a lot louder than the love. Like if someone fucking hated me, they would like post Facebook statuses about me. They would fucking like comment ignorant shit. But when people loved me, they would just kind of DM me like, yo, bro, I fuck with your music, or like, yo, your music helps me and shit like that. Like they weren't really posting about it. They would just like privately DM me that they fucked with me. But when people hated me, like they did it out loud. They were loud as fuck. So I'm like, oh, like people are listening. People are fucking with it. You know what I'm saying? So I loved that performance. It's still like it's one of my most iconic performances. I wanted to stage dive, but they told me if I stage dive and get kicked out. So I'm like, all right, let me chill.
Liability and all that.
So after the set, we fucking we get off, and they're like, yeah, like y'all can't be back here. Like liability, get off. And the venue hated us. Like they just thought we were like ignorant.
Which venue was that?
The Revolutionary.
Yeah.
And they hated us. And anyways, so we get kicked off. I was so sad. I was like, man, I just wanted to meet him so bad. That's all I wanted to do. That's all. I was so fucking mad. And I got off stage, and then X came out with all of his homies. This concert was different compared to everything on the Revenge tour, because he just came out with like all of his homies. Like he didn't have he didn't have openers.
Ski, all them.
Yeah, he just came out. He's like, yo, I'm DJing tonight. I'm DJing for all my friends and shit. So like that was a cool sighting. And I was honestly like during the beginning of the set, like I went outside because I was just so sad, because I was like all I wanted to do was meet him. Like it was such an inspiration to me. Like I was so sad. It was really hard for me to even enjoy the concert, because like I was like, bro, I just wanted to meet him. So this part of the story, like I get really iffy about, because like it's true, but I'm not much of a spiritual person. But like I still can't deny like what happened, because like if someone told me this story, because I don't believe I'm not really spiritual, but I still can't deny that this happened. But so I went inside, and he was performing, and I remember just like looking at the ground, and I was like, I just gotta meet him. Like I have to. Like I remember just like telling myself like I have to meet him.
Like you were willing it into existence.
I have to. Not even just manifest. I was just saying it. Like not with the intention to manifest. I was literally just telling myself like I have to meet him. Like I have to. And there's this kid, I think, I'm trying to remember his name. I think he went by like T-Rev or something. I saw him at a few parties, and he's just this big old dude. He came up to me. He's like, yo, bro, like, why aren't you on stage? And I'm like, kick this off, bro. He's like, oh, you killed it. And I'm like, thanks, bro. I appreciate you. And he's like, fuck that, bro. Like, let's try to get to the front. And I'm like, yeah, I'm down. So, packed ass show. I'm in the way back. And we're kind of just going through the crowd, because everyone's kind of like going crazy and moving, and it's like he's a big dude, so like I'm just right behind him, and he's just like
he was just parting the seat.
He's maneuvering, and like I'm right behind him, and before you know it, I'm like second. Like there's one person in front of me. Well, there's multiple. There's a whole like line in front of me, but there's like this one dude in front of me. And I just remember telling myself, I was like, I just need this fucking kid to move. Like, that's all I need. I just need this fucking kid to move. Like, I kept saying it out loud. Like, I just need this fucking kid to move. I swear to God. Like, I don't even care if nobody believes me, bro. I have no idea why, but security kicked that kid out. I don't know why.
Like, the whole venue, they just threw him out.
They're like, you, like,
Get out of
bro,
here.
I put this on everything I love. Like, they kicked him out, and I don't know why. Bro, I don't know why. Like, it's so fucking weird. I don't know why. I don't even like telling that part of the story because, like, I don't believe in shit like that. Like maybe I should. Anyways, he gets kicked off, and now I'm like front and center, and you know they're performing, and out of nowhere, like Ski just like points at me, and he's like, "Yo, I want him on stage." And he didn't even know who I was. He didn't even know I opened. He
just like spotted you, pointed you out. And
he's just like, and
here.
even security was like, him? He's like, yeah, I want him on stage. I was like, holy shit. I was like, okay. So I get on stage and they start performing H2O.
Yep.
Unreleased at the time. Hard as fuck. So now I'm on stage and I'm like, holy shit. Like, I'm really here. So X ends the show, and then he's like, so he brought up like a whole bunch of like little kids beforehand. So he's like talking, like he's just chopping it up with like little kids early on in the stage because he's like, man, this shit's dangerous. Like, y'all need to come up here.
Like, get out of the pit. You're gonna get fucked
little
up.
ass kids.
Yeah.
And I'm just like staring at bro. I'm just like, he's really just like a couple feet in front of me.
It's all right. Tell it when you're ready, man.
So I go up to bro, and I don't even remember what I said. It's just something. I was just like, I was just like, yo, bro, like, you influenced me a lot. Like, I was really insecure about, like, a lot of shit, bro. And you really, I'm probably not, what I even told him was probably not as accurate as I'm saying right now, but.
It sounds like it was a really emotional moment. It's kind of hard to recall those.
I just told bro.
Take your time.
I just told bro, like, I don't even remember what I said, but I just remember telling him how much I fucked with him, how much his music helped me, and I think, like, I told him about, like, my disability, and I was like, listen, bro, like, I'm usually really hidden with that shit, but, like, you really, really helped me to break out of my fucking shell, bro. Like, this night changed everything for me.
His music really helped, yeah.
And even just that concert alone, like, it just changed everything. And then he grabbed my face, like, with both hands. And then he got, like, this close to my face. And he's just, like, screaming at me, bro. He's just like, you're a fucking star, bro. He's like, I just fucking know you're going to be something someday, bro. Like, I just fucking know it. And he's, like, screaming at me. He's not just saying this shit. He's, like
a football coach
he's screaming. Like, and he's, like, wigging out as he says it. Like, with all of his, like, force and might, he's just screaming, like, bro, you're gonna be, he's like, you're a fucking star. Like, he's like, I just know you're gonna be something someday. I just fucking know it, bro. He's like, you are so fucking special. And he looks, and he just, like, I'll never forget this moment. And he, like, again, his hands are literally on both of my fucking sides of my face. And he goes, do you believe me? I go, yeah. Yeah. And he goes, good, I love you. Now give me a fucking hug. And then we hugged. And then, yeah, that was the last time I saw him. But that night changed everything for me, bro. Because you got to remember, bro, like, not a lot of people believed in me back then. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine just getting hate from, like, the whole world. And, like, the person you look up to the most like really believes in you, really like fucks with you type shit. Like most people say they never meet your idol. Like I literally shared a stage with my idol and I got meant to meet him and it changed my fucking life. I was never the same after that day because no matter how much hate I got, at the end of the day, X believed in me when no one else did. And it really just helped block out all the fucking hate and shit that I experienced because at the end of the day, like, he believed in me. And none of the hate that I got fucking mattered. But, yeah, that night changed everything for me. That was like, the beginning of, like, an era that, like, I'll never fucking forget. It changed my life. He changed my life for sure.
Did indeed. That sounds like a powerful night. Like going through that, having people sing your music back to you.
Yeah, bro.
What did you start doing after that? Like having that revelation in that moment. How did that change the way you approached music and life?
I'd probably say like, damn, y'all got a tissue or something? Nah.
Yeah. Got a paper towel right here.
Bro.
Pass it over.
Appreciate you, bro. Oh.
Shit, I might need one at this rate.
No, you're good. Oh, shit. All right. I guess, like, after that, bro, I just started doing my own shit. I started just dropping more music. And then I started throwing my own shows. Like, my first headlining show, we called it the Heartbreak Show. And we pulled it together in 2 weeks. And then we started just throwing our own headlining shows. And people really came out, like, no special headliner. And that shit was crazy because, like, people will come to, like, big shows like that. But to have people come specifically for you.
Like, this was all underground at the time. You weren't, like, opening for, like, bigger names.
Yeah.
Just you guys.
So it was really cool. It was, like, a really crazy, surreal feeling. Because I remember, like, the first time I ever did a show was here in Idaho, too. And I remember the first, like, probably, like, 3 years before X was when I first started making music. I did a show and bro, like I remember performing and I remember there was probably like 30 people in the crowd and I remember they were looking at me like, what the fuck? It's almost like that scene from Back to the Future when he starts performing that one song and they all like look at him like, what the fuck? That's literally like how they all looked at me when I was performing. And like I think the most reaction I got was like a head bob.
They didn't know what to do with it. It sounds like.
But it never fucked with me because I was like, you're just behind the wave. Like I know y'all will catch up soon. Like that, it didn't fuck with my ego at all at the time.
It's like Back to the Future, like you said. After he finishes performing, he's like, "You guys aren't ready for this yet, but your kids are gonna fucking
exactly."
love it." Yeah.
In my mind, I was like, y'all are just behind. But that was like early on. That was like my like, because I remember like that show. Like I didn't even have. I remember I hit up this promoter that was just throwing local shows. I was like, I want on the show, and he's like, do you have any songs? And I was like, no. But by the time the show comes, I'll have songs. Like so. To go from that to like having a line outside to like see for people just to specifically see me was like really fucking surreal. Like I was like, wow, like to go, and it's crazy too. So my first show, the headliners of that show that brought majority of the crowd were now opening up for me and my crowd.
Oh, so the table's entirely turned on it.
That was pretty cool. Like, wow. And I had more people. I had to humble myself. But, yeah, like, that shit was really surreal. And then we performed, and then everybody was screaming all of my fucking songs. Like, it's so crazy how, like, life really changed after that. Because now, like, it wasn't just, like, it was to all my music. Like, they were screaming that shit at the top of their lungs. People were specifically there to, like, hear certain songs. I was like, holy shit, like, we are really creating something that like no one has done here before.
You
and I will
had like a movement together.
I will always say that too, because like I even like the openers, like the locals that I knew, like they didn't have like that cult following that like we like created. You know what I'm saying? Like people that like fucked with you. Maybe they'll buy your merch, but people were going super hard for us because like I don't know. I just never seen anyone have like the effect on the youth like how me and like the collective that I was a part of like did, you know what I'm saying? And even like a lot of like, so like we rented out a fucking venue from like one of these like from people that also make music. And at first I'll never forget it when we first like were telling them, yeah, we're doing a show, like they had the most like ignorant attitude. It's like, okay, whatever, like like you little youngins, like throwing a show, better be on. They were kind of like low key disrespectful to us too. I won't forget it. They
that
were
venue, actually, I found out later, that venue closed down. It's a tattoo studio. I've been inked there a couple times.
good.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, but they were like super ignorant. And then after the show, when they saw like the crowd that we pulled and the energy, fucking put their arms around us, like, yeah, man, good show. Like, you guys want to come back here again next week? And we're like, no, we're good.
You're fake. We don't want any involvement.
Literally. So, yeah, after that, like, shit started really, really taking off, at least like locally type shit.
Well, from there, you had the opportunity to do shows in other cities with big artists. Like, I know you did shows with members of Shoreline Mafia and whatnot. Out of all the different artists you've, like, done shows with out of the city, who was your favorite to, like, meet and work with?
Bro, OGZ's really nice, and he's really chill. Like, I know a lot of people say that, but, like, and even behind closed doors, like, it makes a lot of sense why he was the most successful out of the group, because he really does show love to like he would go out in the crowd and like really interact with people and fuck with people. Like, it's crazy how like a lot of people don't realize this, but behind the scenes, like when you show that type of love to your fans, like it really does take you a far way. Like, you don't see that on camera, but like I saw, like, because I've seen artists that are like really shitty to their fans. I've seen artists that don't put in a lot of energy in their shows.
Yeah.
And I've seen the outcome of that.
They just run on autopilot and eventually they run out of gas.
But, and like, I see that. And I feel like that's like the biggest thing, like, but the behind the scenes when you're showing love to your fans and shit like that, it really does go a long way that like, that you wouldn't expect. But touring with OGZ was really cool. I went on his first solo tour after he left Shoreline. And it was just a really cool experience. Hearing fucking bottle service every night was so fucking cool too. I was on stage for like every show. Like, I think in Austin, I was like right next to him the whole time. It was me, him, and Peso. And that shit was cool. I liked touring with OGZ the best, and like they like mosh too, like, which was crazy, which I didn't expect, and they all fucked with me.
Yeah, like
my biggest mosh pit was in Dallas. That shit was fucking crazy.
Really? Bigger than the X show.
I think they went harder. It was
X did or Dallas?
Dallas, like,
it makes sense.
They went just like the hardest. Dallas is cool.
Well, it's really interesting because you've seen, like, you know, if you've gone to like metal or hardcore shows, you know, you'd see moshes like that. But in the past, like, I'd say 5-6 years, that energy, it's translated into hip hop shows. Do you think that's kind of a result of the wave that you were part of back then?
Yeah, like basically just mixing rock with rap and taking a lot of influence from rock, not just from like their samples or their guitars and their beats, but also like the energy at their shows and shit like that. I know a lot of like probably older crowds are like those mosh pits are pussy mosh pits compared to my
there's no
show.
Wall of Death.
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
okay,
like,
bro,
shut
sorry, but sorry.
I'm sorry I wasn't a Slayer show in, you know, 1993 with a bunch of meth heads.
My fault, bro.
Yeah.
But you can definitely see where the influence. But it's crazy because we like people pay homage to it. Like, it's not like we're like acting like we claim it or we own it. We're basically just like we take like a lot of. We basically say like we take a lot of influence from like the rock scene. But
even down to like fashion, the way you dress now, and you've gotten into modeling. Like, what's that been like?
Honestly, I don't know if I'm just like self-destructive, but it got too much for me, and that's why like I shaved my head.
You had a Britney Spears moment?
Yeah, I was like, cause I was like when I was in LA, like I was getting paid to like model with like certain like clothing brands. I was doing like walks and shit for like certain clothing brands as well. And it just kind of got overwhelming. And I was like, this can sound crazy. I was like, I got tired of being beautiful. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to fucking shave my head. Yeah. So like, I shot it. And I was like, let me do it for a music video for like the sake of art. So I let the homie like shave my head for like a music video. Because I got overwhelmed with like, I don't even know. I was just tired of it. I was like, I don't want to do this shit.
Just like personalities or politics of it, or what happened?
I just thought bigger. In my opinion, when I moved to LA, I was just like, this isn't shit. Like, so many people are so pride themselves. To me, like, I kept thinking bigger. Like, people would do these like model walks. People would do like photo shoots with these brands and shit. But to me, I was like, I'm just thinking bigger.
It
like,
didn't seem like they had a plan beyond doing that.
People prided themselves and like felt like big W's, and like they walked around like very, very like, oh, like I'm, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, this isn't shit to what I want to be on. and that was like a huge eye opener to me. I'm like, I don't want to get caught up in thinking that I'm going in a successful direction by doing shit like this, because what I want to do, I feel like can be way fucking bigger than the shit that I'm doing right now. So I feel like I needed to kind of like cut away from it, and I wanted to just zone in on my music. So even like shaving my head, like it was so fucking humbling, because I lost a lot of like girls when I shaved my, not lost a lot, but the energy
They lost
definitely
interest, yeah.
shifted, and I was good too. I was like, fuck it, I don't care. Like now I can just go harder in my music, just doing this shit for like the sake of art. Like fuck all that. Like I don't know, maybe I'm just self-destructive, but
No, I mean, it seems like from the way you've described, like the way the X interacted with you, the way you described OGZ interacting with people compared to like these models, you know, you seem to value authenticity. Like people who
yeah.
don't care when the camera's on or off, they're going to be the same regardless. Has like, would you say that's kind of your philosophy when it comes to being an entertainer or artist?
Yeah, it's always like super crazy when I meet people with like egos who haven't really accomplished or done a lot, and then you meet like artists who have accomplished a lot and have like a huge effect on the scene, are so nice and humble. It's like
Yeah.
it almost disgusts me. Like come on, like those people have a reason to brag, those people have a reason to act that way, and here you are like acting like this person that like it just I had the really good opportunity to be around a lot of nice and humble artists. And
Yeah.
that's like, so when I see someone acting out of character, or when I see someone acting like that, it just kind of like turns me off. And maybe that is why like I just really didn't like it.
Well, I think it speaks to like identity and being genuine. Like usually it's the people who are loudest in a room are the most insecure and don't like themselves. But these guys, you know, when they actually get success, they know what they're worth. They've proved it time and time again, and they feel no need to be like the grand poobah in the fucking room, it seems like. Yeah.
I've definitely seen a lot of like, I've just witnessed a lot of shit. Like for instance, like I was around a lot of artists that were early on in their careers,
Yeah.
them being on top of the world versus like them falling off in their careers. And then I have been around artists that were like more low key at the time and ended up kind of getting bigger, like surpassing expectations and blowing up their careers.
Yeah.
And honestly, you see a lot of the same patterns with artists that have fallen off, and you also see a lot of the same patterns with artists that have gotten to blown up. So I really got like a firsthand look as to what to do and what not to do from like just other artists' mistakes and other artists' habits.
What would you say the biggest mistakes that like artists on the rise make? You've seen a lot of people, you know, blow up, like you said. What missteps do they usually make on that way up there that ends up setting them up for failure or not doing well in the long run?
Drugs.
Drugs?
Every fucking time.
Damn,
Majority of the time. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I don't think I want to. Most people will probably know who I'm talking about, but there was like an artist who was really, really fucking big in like 2017, 2018. And I remember being around him, and we're at a music video shoot, just chopping it up. And he's just very much like, yeah, bro, like the label's about to give me the biggest tour bus, you know, like this shit's popping off. I'm like, yeah, bro, like that's what's up. Like, and like years, and then I see him again like probably like 6 months later, and bro could barely like say a sentence.
He was just so loaded.
It was a sad fucking sight, bro. Like fuck. And now like where he is at in his career, like unfortunately like not as relevant as he was, is the nicest way to put it. And honestly, I feel like a lot of people don't realize like even I'm not gonna say any names,
Probably best, yeah.
but like not just that person, but there's also like another artist who went the same route, who got way too hard into drugs. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize this, but like these artists don't just like start making shitty music. These artists don't start going hard in their shows. They just get too fucked up to care about anything.
Yeah.
And it's also really comfortable in LA too. And that was another reason why I wanted to leave too, because like you're in LA, you're around a whole bunch of like girls, you're going out every night, you get really fucking comfortable, and you get this mindset like, I fucking made it, this is a W. That's why sometimes a lot of LA artists don't make it out of LA, because like it's really easy to get comfortable and not want to go harder, because
they get sucked into that.
And I did too. I was going out every fucking night, like getting girls that like I never even dreamed about, because now I was in this scene where girls like liked my type of style. And I kind of like wanted to like get out of it. Like I want to make myself uncomfortable. I don't want to convince myself that like
you wanted to push yourself. Yeah.
It's too comfortable.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like why I came back, because like I got too comfortable and I didn't want to put myself. I just wanted to go hard in my music, because like in my opinion, I feel like my music is what's going to get me to the next step, because I used to have this mindset like, oh, I need to go to LA and make connections and that's going to blow me up. And I started meeting people who have amazing fucking connections,
and they're not doing shit,
and their music still isn't shit. Like, I'm, again, no names, but I know people that are like, I not know people, but I've met people who are literally best friends with top industry artists that are going on tour with them, that are signed to these artist labels, and their music still isn't anywhere because their music, in my opinion, like, isn't really that good.
Yeah.
So I made the connections. So like, even if I do make the connections, that shit still won't, there's still a chance that won't take me to the next level. Here these guys are with literally the best connections, and that shit still hasn't got, they're still at a minimal level in their careers. So like,
they're great at networking, but their actual art, their product they're putting
exactly
out is not good.
And in my mindset, as like, if I just zone in on my craft and just make really fucking good music, I feel like that can take me a lot further than coming out here and working on music sometimes and going hard and making connections. Like, I feel like my art will take me and can take me to the next fucking level. And that's coming from someone that hasn't even dropped in like 3 fucking years.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So I wanted to ask you regarding that, like, what's next for you? What are you working on or about to put out soon?
So like, I used to think I was really good at writing music until like I broke up with my ex, and I realized that I'm only good at writing based on feel and emotion.
You have to be in the moment. It just like comes then, and you can't force it.
Yeah, like, 'cause for like the past 3 years when we were together, like on and off, like I would just write about her, and she gave me a lot to fucking write about. And
Yeah.
after we broke up, I think for like the 3rd time, excuse me,
All good.
I was like completely numb over her, and I found myself in a crazy writer's block because I literally just didn't feel anything.
It's
and
like you lost your muse, yeah.
Because like, even if I did write shit down, if I didn't feel like a connection or an attachment to it, it registered as trash in my fucking head, you know? So I was like, it was just a crazy fucking writer's block for like the longest time. But I sort of like, after living in LA and kind of like going away for some time, I found myself in like a really fucking deep hole. Like, I isolated myself, and I went fucking crazy. Like, your mind can convince you of some like wild shit sometimes, like when you're by yourself and you kind of don't have friends or people around you to kind of like check you. Cause like, I was just convinced of some wild shit. Like,
No, you get in a space like that where you're isolated, and it just does weird things to your head. I was in the mountains for like 6 months at one point in a town of like 200 people. Very similar thing. You just start thinking weird shit because nobody's there to check it.
yeah, it's kind of crazy too. Cause when I was, I went to the psych ward one time. Like, I just said that shit's so casual.
It's like, yeah, I went to Mickey D's, and then after I stopped at the psych,
I got checked into the psych ward one time, and none of like the group therapy didn't teach me anything. We had like she was a bitch. I don't even like using that word a lot, but it just basically,
the like therapist.
yeah, like, she wasn't a therapist, bro. She was like a woman that obviously did not give a shit about her job or us. She had this energy. Yeah, she had like the energy of like the teacher that would give you packets instead of teaching you anything. So, but anyways, the fucking therapist didn't teach me shit, but the other patients taught me shit. There is this guy there. He was the only dude I talked to everybody, but he was the only dude that I really enjoyed talking to. He was fucking smart as hell. Like, you would talk about anything, and he would just know all these fucking facts about it.
He was like an encyclopedia.
He was really intelligent, but his little kink was he was convinced that somebody was trying to murder him. He didn't know who, and he didn't know why.
Oh, he had like persecutory delusions. Yeah,
he was 100% convinced that somebody was trying to murder him.
Huh.
And he told me that the only reason he's in here was because he was convinced that he didn't say the words convinced, but he was basically convinced that someone was one time trying to break into his house and murder him. And when he was trying to explain to the cops that somebody was trying to murder him, he ended up in here. And I remember, yeah.
Oh my God.
And I remember him like telling me like we should grab food afterwards, like if we ever get out of this place. And I'm like, yeah, bro, I'm down. And he told me, he's like, but we could only eat at places where I can physically see them making my meals so I know that they don't poison me.
He thought like the line cook at some place was going to slip some
he's like,
burger.
it has to be like a Subway or like a Chipotle where I could physically see them make
Five
my
Guys
food.
Or something. Yeah.
So right then and there, I kind of like looked at it and I was like, damn, like your mind can convince you of some wild fucking shit.
It really can.
And I was like, what are the things that I'm convinced of? Because I could look at this person and be like, I could know in my heart that there's no one trying to murder him or poison him, but this man is 100% convinced that there is.
You can't tell him anything otherwise. That's what he knows in his head to be true.
So I looked in the mirror and I'm like, what are my delusions? What am I 100% convinced of that aren't true?
Did you find anything when you did that deep dive that you were talking about?
Yeah, I was like a major hypochondriac.
Huh. Like afraid of just any random illness.
Yeah, like everything. Because like I was in and out of the hospital a lot when I was like a kid. So like not even just that, but just like my ex left me and I was convinced that I was never going to find love again. Still haven't. So maybe that part is true. But I was low key. It's kind of hard to like pinpoint, like, because I had so much ideas. I just had so much thoughts going through my head. I feel like it was just different thoughts, different days. Like it almost felt like my mind was just looking for shit to be depressed about. Like
like you couldn't figure out anything concretely wrong, so your mind was just searching for abstract shit to freak out about.
It just got more comfortable being like depressed than it was like getting out of that hole.
Yeah.
So like I really looked in the mirror and I was like, maybe I'm convinced of things that aren't true, just like this guy. And this guy's views are very extreme, and it kind of made my views and the way that I viewed myself and the world differently.
It forced you to like take a harder look, or
like
gotcha.
Oh, like this dude is willing to die on the hill that he's trying to be murdered by somebody.
Huh.
And it just made my delusions not seem as crazy.
Yeah, it made you feel sane in comparison.
And I was like, like your mind can, it just really put in perspective of like your mind can convince you of some crazy shit. So maybe the delusions that I'm having may not be as true, because it was just, to see it in person was just really fucking surreal. And just to hear how confident he was in how he felt about like that.
The way you're talking about his delusions, it kind of sounds like the way you were discussing like people in LA thinking they've made it. You kind of think that people in the industry do get into their own little delusions like that, where they think they're like the best or everything's guaranteed.
Yeah, like even I think that I low-key got out of that delusion at this one. I was at this, I don't know need to brag, but like I was at this party in the hills, and I kind of like looked around and I was like, what's the most I'm going to gain from this? Like we go to these parties every other day. Like they're always happening.
Like mansion parties.
Yeah. Like, and I go, what's the most I'm going to gain? We come here, like it looks cool, like on camera when you're around like influencers and really pretty girls, like it looks cool on like social media. It looks like you're making it. It looks like you're having a good time. But in reality, like the most I'm going to gain from this is some new IG followers.
Yeah.
But if I think my art's going to get me to the next level, none of that even matters, because I don't think it's not going to be another person that takes me to the next level. It's myself. And that's when I stopped, when I kind of got out of the delusion and I started like separating myself and started going out less. And I feel like
focusing on your craft.
A lot of people are stuck in like the delusions, and that's why I've separated. And it's crazy to think, because it took everything in me to go to LA. My biggest dream was to go to LA and live there and be able to afford it and shit. And now and I don't want to be there anymore. It was kind of like crazy to me, because I worked so hard to get there, and
it's not easy to stay out there and afford it. You have to really hustle or figure out a good situation.
It took a lot. So like to go there and then finally make it to where like I always envisioned going to these parties, being around these people, and now like all of a sudden I'm in a position where I no longer want it.
Yeah.
That shit was crazy. It took a lot. I had to fight myself on it, but I think it just came to the realization, like, just separate yourself, seclude yourself, and just go hard in your craft. And I think that's going to be the next level for sure.
Pay off, not like meeting people, parties, stuff like that.
I mean, it can happen. Like you can meet someone that can change your life, but I think I'm willing to bet the odds on myself than somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been my perspective.
That makes sense. So would you have, from all these experiences, any advice for like up and coming artists based off the things you've seen, you've done throughout your career?
I feel like an artist that's first starting off.
Yeah, like they just put out their first track on like SoundCloud or YouTube. They're trying to figure out shows, promote themselves, stuff like that. Like ground zero.
This is just my opinion. It's not facts. But what I would do, make as much shitty music as possible.
Huh.
Don't be mad that your music is shit at first. That's all part of the process.
Like experiment with it.
Yeah, like even whenever I hear people's like listen to my first song and it sounds not good, I'm like, you're exactly where you need to be at. Like everybody starts off making really shitty music. Like, and sometimes like there's gifted people that just like first song is just fucking amazing, and I get that. But it's all part of the process in my opinion. Like make as much shitty music as you can, because like you're just gonna keep getting better and better at every time. So because like I made shitty music at first, I did shitty shows too, and I think artists at first don't overplay yourself, but do the shitty shows, because the reason I was able to go so hard with X compared to the other people that were on stage, because a lot of people that was their first show, so I have already gotten my jitters out and all of like what should I do out. It's almost like I'm very like thankful for a lot of those shitty shows, because I did shows where nobody showed up.
Oh wow, like just empty.
I performed in front of other openers. Like that's how bad some of these shows were. And at first I was like, this sucks.
Like type of shows you're not even on the flyer. Yeah.
But I'm super thankful for those experiences, because now like it led me, I got to like get it out of my system. And none of those shows mattered, but the fact that I got practice out of those shows, it paid off in the long run. So in my opinion, like make shitty music, because the more music you make, the better you're gonna get. Do shitty shows. Don't consider it as like clout, or consider it a way to like up yourself. Literally go in with the intention of, this is practice for the bigger shows that I'm going to do. Just have a different that's my motive, and like that's always my intention. Like sometimes it might not even be like, I used to do shows just for it to look cool on pictures. Like I'd always sometimes go in there with like different motives and shit like that. So do shitty shows, do shitty songs, and it sucks, but one day you're gonna have the song and like I'm fucking sorry gave me like the craziest different reaction, and you're gonna know when you have the one. Keep making shitty shows until more shitty shows you do, more connections you'll make. But don't overdo it. Don't do like a every weekend. Because I know artists that would do like perform at this like shitty ass bar every weekend.
Oh my god! And just burn out their reputation.
It was so bad. Yeah. You'd hear like they'd like post videos of them performing, and then you'd hear like 2 claps in the back.
Oh my god!
But that shit's humbling, low key, and it makes you go harder. But I don't know, just enjoy the journey, bro. Even if you're not like, if your music isn't doing good, if your fucking shows aren't doing good, if you aren't like, it's all part of the journey. It's all part of the experience. Just keep it in your mind that this is like the end goal is going to be like, you're going to make it, and all of these things that you're doing will one day like humble you. And I don't know, just enjoy the process, enjoy the ride.
Yeah. It's not the destination, it's the journey, the way there.
Exactly. Gotcha. There's really, really like humbling moments for me in there. Even though like at the time it didn't feel like it. It was really frustrating when you like put your all into a song and then it gets like 4 plays. Yeah. Like it sucks, but that should just motivate you to go harder and just figure out. And you're also finding your voice, and you're also finding yourself during the beginning stages of like making music and shit. So yeah, just don't forget to enjoy the ride while you're chasing your dreams, for sure.
Yeah. One day it's going to be over. Got to enjoy it while it's there.
Yeah. Facts.
So about the way you actually like make art and music, what's your process when you're like writing a song and recording it? I know you mix a lot of your own material, but what's actually the way you write stuff? Do you freestyle it, write it down, work with a beat?
Sometimes like the beat will just sort of like make me feel a certain way, and I just write based off of the feeling. Like I literally just everything I write is based off feeling and emotion, so it doesn't even matter like the environment I'm around. Like if there's cool lights around, or if I'm in a professional studio in LA, like I feel like even if I was at a professional studio with like really like vibey lights versus like my bedroom in the pitch dark, I feel like I would get the same thing, because like I mentally go somewhere like in my mind.
Yeah, they call that flow. It's a process by which artists, they just tap into their own creativity. It can happen anywhere. That's an interesting way to hear it described, though.
Yeah.
I've never heard it like that.
Like I go somewhere else to where like nothing in the room or the people in the room doesn't matter, because like I'm just like almost faced with my emotions that I don't talk about. But it's almost like there's an inner voice in me that doesn't like to talk about my feelings, but he's only able to speak through my music.
Gotcha.
So
do you feel like it's you creating that music, or the music it's creating itself?
It's crazy, because sometimes I'll write shit, I'm like, I don't know where that came from.
It was like waiting for a time to come out, and it just happened to be
It's
that
like certain
moment?
beats bring out certain emotions in me, and I just write based off of the feeling. Because like I'll know within like the first 15 seconds if it moves me or not.
Gotcha.
So I basically just write off the feelings of like the beat, or even if I'm going through something at the time that's like really in the moment, which I was a lot with a lot of the songs that I did previously, like in the moment going through shit. I would literally not be able to talk about it, but you put a beat in front of me that makes me feel a certain way, I'll be able, like, I think I wrote like a whole album in a night, like in a manic episode,
Oh
like
wow.
off, like freestyling off, like just one after another. I was scared.
Just looking at type beats and just
I was
recording and
scared. I
recording. Yeah.
almost like FaceTime my friend. I'm like, yo, bro, like just watch me as I record. Cause like I'm just giving, like usually I try to like distract my manic thoughts, but this time I'm giving into them so I could write. And it got a little scary for a little bit, but I
Wow.
made like really good songs, like just based off of the feeling.
You end up releasing any of those? Are they still in the
It's
vault?
coming out.
Hell
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Fuck
Be
yeah.
good. So with your music, I've noticed you speak a lot on insecurities, on mental health issues. You know, that's a big theme throughout your music, like I'd say the past 4 or 5 years.
Hmm.
What advice do you have for people who are struggling with insecurities or like mental health issues like depression, suicidal ideation, things like that?
It's always such a hard question for me to ask, because I feel like I'm still like,
Nobody ever beats it, but like what has helped you through the day to day and just get to where you are now? Cope with it.
honestly, bro, like I still don't even cope with it. Like I just distract myself. I
Stay
mean,
busy.
getting out of your environment definitely does help too. Like if you're just sitting in your bedroom all day, like forced to think about all the bullshit in your life, like it sucks and it definitely takes a toll on you. I would just say like just try to break habits in certain environments. I just learned recently that like your brain could get so comfortable being depressed because it's what you've taught it for months and months and months, to the point where if you try to like get out of the habit of being depressed, it almost becomes the not normal for your brain. Your brain is fighting so much to be in the normal like
Yeah.
routine.
Yeah.
So when you try to like get out of your depressive state, your brain's going to automatically fight it because you've trained your mind to be depressed for so long, to the point where when you try to break it, it's not going to like it because that's no longer the norm for them.
Yeah, I know it's called neuroplasticity. We all have little wires in our brain that channel certain thoughts and different signals, and when you use the ones that channel depression for a long time, that's the one your brain becomes used to doing. So if you try to go to a different one, it's going to pump the brakes on you. It's going to feel
Exactly.
unnatural.
It's almost like you're addicted to being depressed.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
trying to, now you're like in a mindset where you're trying to break your addiction.
Yeah.
So you got to try to break the addiction and just know that like, just do things in the meantime to distract yourself from the thoughts when you're trying to break this. Just, I don't know. Just find something that makes you happy and go fucking hard at it. And you're not going to find it suppressing yourself in your bedroom.
No.
Whether
will
it's
not.
music, just walk out your front door. Just do, it's the little things like walking out your front door, being around friends again, or even if you don't have friends, like trying to put yourself in certain situations that you know can help you in the long run. Like there's so many opportunities every time you step out that front door. That was my mindset when I first moved like to LA. Like every time I step out of the door, there's like a million opportunities for my life and my worldview to change. So honestly, just get out of the addictive state of depression and just try to do things that'll change you, because your life can change. It really
Yeah.
can.
But it only will if you let it. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I went from like being depressed, getting high every day in my room, to like moving to LA, which is something I never thought I'd be able to do or afford. And like that was a really awakening moment that your life can change dramatically based off one decision or one move. Like it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And you just got to keep moving that direction and shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, depression's a bitch, bro.
It is indeed, man. It is. So back to LA. You had a funny incident happen in LA where Mac Miller ended up tweeting
Oh,
about
shit.
you. What's the backstory of that tweet, man?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
We were driving to, hold on, what's her porn star name? I don't want to.
Yeah, you don't want to
Yeah.
drop her name. Yeah. I feel
Tiffany Watson is her name. And we were driving to her house, and I was like, I didn't live in LA at the time, so I was always fascinated by little shit. So there was a G-Wagon. I was like, oh, that's cool. We
Yeah.
drive by, and I see a redhead in a G-Wagon with tattoos. And I'm like,
that. Y'all know who that is?
I told my
Yeah.
homie, I'm like, hey, bro, like, don't quote me on this, but I think that's Mac Miller back there. And he's like, no fucking way. And I
Yeah.
was like, when the light turns green, go really, really slow. And he's like, okay. And then he drives by and I record. I was like, there's no way. And then it ends up being him. And I was just like, I was like, yo, Mac, like, much love, bro, or something like that. And he just like goes like this. And then we drive away thinking nothing of it. And then my friend sends me a tweet saying some dude in the whip some dude next to my whip pulled up filming, and I was definitely picking my nose solid.
So you got a video of Mac Miller just picking his nose in the middle of LA traffic.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was picking his nose. He was really smooth with it. I don't think I would have told anybody either.
He's probably figured out a way to hide it, or he had figured out a way to hide it.
That shit was hilarious.
That's funny,
I'll always like remember that. That was a cool experience.
Yeah. So now that you're moving away from LA, like where are you headed up next? Are you doing any tours, stuff like that?
See, like even like in my opinion, like tours is so far out of my realm too, because like again, I don't think touring is even like, in my opinion, for me, myself, and I don't even think touring is going to take me to the next level either.
What do you think it is then?
It's just strictly my music.
Gotcha.
I see people investing a lot of fucking money into like touring locally with like local artists and things like that. And I don't know, I just do like the percentage, because I've done it all before, and I feel like you could just make so much more money instead of investing in like, people are paying for slots. People are paying for slots, and then people on the tour are paying for it. And honestly, like,
you're losing money to get exposure. It's like a pay to play.
Let's like say like you're getting like 50 people to your show, and the only reason they even came is because you booked local openers, and those people are strictly just there for like the local talent. Like that investment in return just doesn't seem like doesn't seem like that good to me.
And you need a big,
because I get offers for tours all the time from like other, like nobody big, but just like locally and shit, like from people that I just want to do, and I turn them all down because like it just doesn't seem worth my time or my effort. Like again, like I think shows, like I kind of almost convince myself like, unless it's a big headliner or a headliner I fuck with, or if people like my own headlining shows, when I am at that point, that's soon to come later. Like shows aren't even in my mental right now. It's strictly just my music, because I'm making some of the best music I think I've ever made. You've heard some of it, and it's definitely something different and special. And I just know when the masses hear this shit, like everything's gonna change. It's all part of the face. So no shows right now, strictly just going fucking deep into music right now. And yeah, just from the music's gonna speak for itself for sure.
Hell yeah. Well, I look forward to hearing it. That's all the questions I have for you. Is there anything you'd like to say? Just kind of like an open mic.
No.
Sounds good, man. Well, I'm Dave is Dead. It's been a pleasure interviewing you. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.